اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري أنه قال: عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بطني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلأله كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخوك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه والسلام عليك يا من اختار الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد عزمت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عم رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن نكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ بي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمعي، يعلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم، إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماوات إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء خمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل يا رب يتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا. فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك عزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي رضا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا رب الكعبة. فقال النبي الثاني يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي رضا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. صلوات.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu and Kushali Mubarak. Tonight we are very proud that the Quran recitation, with which we commence every program, will be recited by children from our own Hyderi workshop. They will be reciting together from the ladies' hall. Can we please welcome them with Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Can we have another last salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Can we please recite Surah Fatiha for all the names displayed on the screens and for all marhum names, please? Surah al-Mubarakat al-Fatiha. Dua Shafaat is requested for all Mareed, please. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibu al-mudhtarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-mudhtarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-mudhtarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء اللهم صل على محمد وآل Muhammad. Inshallah, on Wednesday we'll be celebrating the Wiladah of Imam Ali salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The program will begin at 8 p.m. with Majlis. The program will begin at 8 p.m. Majlis will be recited by Sheikh Nabil Awan and Mankabats by Brother Zishan Abidi of Pakistan. There will be a ladies' Majlis Azad to commemorate the Shahadat of Bibi Zainab salawatullah wa salamuhu alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad at Shabnam Raza's residence on Saturday the 27th of January at 6 p.m. All ladies are requested to attend. Brothers and sisters, as you are aware, during the holy month of Rajab, we have many upcoming programs at the mosque, so please kindly donate generously at either desk. Lastly, brothers, can I request you to stand up and come as close to the front as possible? At the same time, can we please welcome Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala محمد وآل محمد صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على الأفضل الموجودات، العبد المؤيد الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد والمحمود الأحمد، سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا، صاحب الوقار والسكينة المدفون بأرض المدينة، أبي القاسم محمد. وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين، آمين يا رب العالمين. فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم وهو أصدق القائلين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا يحيى خذ الكتاب بقوة وآتيناه الحكم صبية. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات Muhammad wa alim. Once again, Mubarak to all the lovers of Imam Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam. Muhammad. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in honor of this holy Imam who was so dear to the holy Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, his father, accept all of your hajat, your deeds, your du'as. The brothers who work tirelessly and put in the efforts to make this happen, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase in their tawfiqat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anyone who participates in any way, shape or form, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah increase in their rizq of halal. Our children especially, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the love of it's already there. May Allah increase the love and wilayah of al-Muhammad in their hearts. So inshallah is passed on generations to come, generation after generation. And especially the children who beautifully recited the holy Quran from next door. And it reminded me of the beautiful hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Who says, your children have 3 rights upon you, or raise your children in the following way. Number 1, give them a beautiful name, because their name is their recognition. They'll be recognized by their name. They'll be called by their name for years to come. Number 2, instill within them the love of the Holy Quran, the recitation of the Holy Quran. And number 3, ala hubbi Ali ibn Abi Talib, and put within them the love of my brother, my vicegerent, my Khalifa, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. And this recitation that you heard from the children next door reminds you of Thaqalain, that we have Ali and the Quran side by side. Recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One of the criticisms that is put forward, as we remember, the son of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, who was born much later in his life. And when he was born, the Holy Imam himself said there is not a child. When this child was born, this Imam was born, he said there is no child who has proved to have more barakah and khair for the Shia than this child of mine. Referring to Imam Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad alayhi salam. And there are reasons for that. Ulama have written extensively on that. But one of the criticisms which is put forward from, of course, the non-Shia side, is that the Imams of the Shia, one of the problems that they have, this is what they say, one of the problems that they have is that the Imams of the Shia, especially when it comes to Imam al-Jawad, Imam Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad, is what? Is that they say, look, he was too young. When his father left this dunya, he was way too young. He wasn't even baligh. So if a person is not baligh, then how is he fit for imama? Well, that's their words, not my words. A person who's not baligh, how is he fit for imama? How is he fit to lead a nation, a community, the Shia nation? Right? And so they've put this forward with other Imams as well. Imam Mahdi alayhi salam was very young when he went into Ghaibah. 4, 5 years of age. Imam al-Naqi alayhi salam, when Imam Muhammad Taqi passes away, was very young. I mean, Imam Jawad himself was martyred at the young age of 25. Martyred at 25. He didn't become a father at 25. He became father a few years back. So he was a young father and a young martyr, young shaheed. In fact, the youngest shaheed out of all of the imama is Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. And say, look, the Shia, their imams are, children. That's how they criticize us. They're not baligh, yani they're not mukallaf. Baligh is someone who reaches the age or the level where he is religiously bound to prayer, salat, saum, etc. So what do we say? The Imams were young. Yes, they were young. And perhaps if some of us saw, we don't have images of the Imams. But if there was an image, you would see a majma like this, like yourself sitting, and a very young boy on the mimbar. So they use this against us. Imam Jawad, young, 6, 7 years old. The answer is, for the Shia, bulugh is not a condition for imama. That's the short answer. Bulugh, or reaching that age where a person becomes duty bound, is not a condition for imam. In fact, forget the Shia point of view. Let's go to the Quran, the Quranic point of view, which is Bain Sunni wa Shia muttafiq alayh. There's no doubt in this for Sunni or Shia. In the Quran, bulugh is not even a condition for nabuwah. Being baligh is not a condition even for nabuwah. Yes, when we say imam, we don't mean imam jama'at. Yeah, for imam jama'at, the one who leads the prayer, he must be baligh and aqil and sane and religiously, he must be at the age where he's religiously bound to his duties to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He must be sane, he must be adil, he must not commit major sins. He must be Shia, Imamiyya, Ithna Ashariya, 12 Shia. But that's Imam al-Jama'ah, not Imam al-Ma'soom. The word Imam is different, but the word Imam is the same, but the meaning is different. Sometimes you can have a word which is the same, mushtarak, but the ma'na is mukhtalif, is different. So when we say Imam al-Jama'ah needs to be baligh and sane and aqil and adil and imami ithna ashari, that's for the one who will lead the prayer. That's for me and you. That's a very low level. But when we say Imam Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad alayhi salatu wasalam, this is someone who's mansoos min Allah. The Imam al-Jama'ah, you make him Imam. Maulana, you lead the prayer, we'll pray behind you. But you can't say this to someone, you become the Imam of the Ummah, will you lead, we come behind you. Because that's Saqifa. Imam al-Jama'ah, you can choose one. Imam Ma'soom min Allah, you can't choose. Number one. Number two, the verse, let's go back to Surah Al-Maryam, the verse which I recited in the beginning of this lecture, Ya Yahya, Allah directly commands Yahya. Quran, Surah Al-Maryam. خُذُ الْكِتَابَ بِقُوَّةٍ. Hold on to the book with your power, بِقُوَّة, with your power. And the next part is important. وَآتَيْنَاهُ الْحُكْمَ صَبِيًّا. And we gave him nabuwah, wisdom, while he was still young. Young boy, young child. They came to Imam Muhammed al-Baqir salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. In Usul al-Kafi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Kitab Kafi. They said, Yabna Rasulillah, what is this hikmah, wisdom that Allah gave Yahya? The Imam says, this is nabuwah. Young. No one says then Yahya is not baligh. No one says he hadn't reached he didn't become mukallif, he hadn't become someone who's duty bound. Nabi. Allah says, hold the book. And we've given you. So he's given him a book and he's given him nabuwah. Let's go a step forward. Again, Surah Al-Maryam, when Maryam comes back to Bani Israel with her newborn. You all know where I'm going. But I want to come back to Imam Jawad alayhi salam. And they say, oh Maryam, whose child is this? Your parents were known for their purity and chastity. How dare you? Where did this child come from? Allah had said to Maryam, do not say anything. Just point to the baby. And so she points to the child. And they say, how are we to speak to someone who's in the cradle? قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ آتَانِيَ الْكِتَابِ وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا. And as soon as they said, how should we speak to someone in the cradle? Isa alayhi salam speaks in the cradle. Quran. It's not hadith, it's Quran. He says, I am Abdullah. Atani al-kitab. He has given me a book. In other words, I have sharia. He's in the cradle. And he says, I am sahibu sharia. I am the possessor of religious law, religious code. وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا, and he's made me a nabi. Ja'alani. He's already made me a nabi. Not that he will make me a nabi. You know, Quran, one must pay it. Quran is not something you read over it and you move on. Quran is something you read between the lines. At the end of the day, it's Allah speaking, not any human being. Everyone with me? Salawat, please. وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا, he's already made me a nabi. This nabi is in the cradle. So if a nabi can be a nabi in the cradle, then why cannot an imam be an imam in his cradle? Especially if it's chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Especially if our belief is that mansus min Allah. And that also solves another issue. If Isa alayhi salam can speak hours after his birth, then why can Ali ibn Abi Talib not do the same? 13th of Rajab, you'll celebrate it inshallah. But just because it connects here, when the Prophet takes Ali ibn Abi Talib onto his hands, his mother comes out of the Kaaba, Fatima bint Asad. Rasulullah takes Amirul Mu'mineen. The hadith says the first time Amirul Mu'mineen opens his eyes and he glances at the Prophet. He says, Salamu alayki ya Rasulullah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Qad aflaha al-mu'minun. Salamu alaykum ya Rasul Khuda, ya Rasulallah. Verily, Surah Al-Mu'minun, verily, he recites the first, ulama says 6-7 ayat of Surah Mu'minun. And he says, Ya Rasulallah, qad aflaha al-mu'minun. Verily, the mu'mineen have succeeded. The Messenger of Allah says, qad aflahu bika ya Ali. They have indeed succeeded because of you, O Ali ibn Abi Talib. But what is baffling and strange is that people can accept Isa spoke in the cradle. But yet when it comes to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, they find any excuse to reject that. And not accept it. Anyhow, each to their own. Imam al-Jawad. They came to Mawla, they say, Ya Imam al-Radha, if something happens to you, who do we turn? Who's the point of our hidayah? God forbid something happens to you. Imam alayhi salam says, my young son, Muhammed, he is the point of your guidance. Someone says, Ya Imam al-Rada, Ya Ibn Rasulillah. The young son? The young boy? He says, yes. Do you not remember that Isa spoke in the cradle? And he had Nabuwa and Kitab? If Allah can do that to Isa, then He can do it to my son as well. And so bulugh, we never said it was a condition for imama. It may be a condition to you in your school of thought. But for our school of thought, the 12 imams, mansus min Allah, chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bulugh is not a condition for them in any book of theology. You won't find it anywhere. Suduq, Tusi, Ahilli, all of the ulama have written on theology especially. Bulugh is nowhere to be found. What is the condition then? Nas. Mansus. Clear instruction. Wadah. Clear. And we have a clear instruction. Man kuntum mawla, fa aliyun mawla. That's clear instruction. Even though Ali was young compared to the others. Right? They said Ali is young, not now. Let us see the affairs first. But it's not about the age. It's about where Allah knows better where He puts Nabuwa and Imama. And for sure, one thing is not to be confused. The children of Al-Muhammad, the Imams of Al-Muhammad, when they're children, they're not like our children. Falling, not knowing. The Imams of Al-Muhammad, even though apparent, zahir, al-zahir, they're children, but within them is the inspiration of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like Allah inspired His prophets. Like He inspired Musa, Isa, Yahya. Within the Aimma is the inspiration of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Young Imam al-Jawad in Baghdad. Hadith, Tarikh. Young. Mamun is passing by, going hunting. Right? And he's got his hunting dogs and his hunting eagles with him, and he's got his guards with him. And as they pass through one of these streets of Baghdad where these children were playing, everyone runs because they see the ruler or the king or whatever is coming, and he's got so many people with him. They're marching through. All the children naturally get scared and run, except Imam al-Jawad. Stays put. That hits Mamun. They said, all of the kids ran. What kind of child is this? He says, stop the caravan. For that, he stops the caravan. Now remember, stopping the caravan is not stopping a car. It's not pressing the brake pedal. You've got to stop everyone and everything. If you travel with a caravan, in the old days, you got animals, you got to stop them, you got to sit them, you got to pass a message at the back. It's not like hit the brake pedal and you're stopped. But Imam Jawad, he didn't know that's Imam Jawad. But that struck him, his bravery, his confidence struck him. He said, stop. I want to speak to this young boy. And he says, young man, why is it that when everyone ran, you stayed put? Now look at the reply of what he thought was a young boy. He says, the Holy Imam says, oh, ruler, you rule this kingdom. Criminals run, and I haven't committed a crime to be running. Number one. Number two, he says, neither is the street narrow that you can't pass without me. Moving aside. Now what a logical and mantaqi jawab that the Holy Imam gives, that he can't even say anything to that. I'm not a criminal, why should I run? And there's plenty of room for you to pass. In other words, what the Imam was saying, there's no fear in my heart. I'm from the lineage of Hyderi Karrar. From the bloodline of rajulan karrar wa ghayr farrar. There's no fear in this heart. And that struck Mamun. That he continued, but he was playing with his mind. You know, if you're a ruler, you're full of arrogance, and you're a king, you have the khilafat, you have the whole Islamic dunya under you, and a child like this shows no fear. He gets there. The history states that he lets go of his hunting eagles. This eagle disappears out of sight and he comes back, and within the beak there is a small fish. He holds the fish in his hand and he comes back. Again the children run, Imam Jawad stays. And so he ought to test the holy Imam. He says, young man, what is in my hand? You all heard the narration, but I want to take you somewhere. What's in my hand? Now look at the jawab. I mean, there's one thing the Imam, look, if the Imam had just said what's in there, that would have been good enough. But that's not what the Imam says. He takes him right back. He says, look, the Imam Jawab. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created oceans and rivers and seas. And within the oceans He's created sea life, big and small, from the most huge creatures to the most tiniest of creatures of all. And rulers and kings enjoy hunting, so they take their hunting eagles with them and they let them loose. These eagles find these fishes, they catch them with their beaks and they bring them back and they place them on the palm of their rulers. Those rulers hide those small fish in their hands and they come and they want to test the ilm of al-Muhammed. Now that was a slap on his face. Now who are you talking to? Straight up, and he was slapped on his face. This was a slap. You know what he says after that? He says, there is no doubt you're the son of Ali al-Rida. I have no, he knew Imam Rida alayhi salam. He was the killer of Imam alayhi salam. He says, there is no doubt you're Rida's son. Anta ibn Rida. There is no doubt. From that time, the maqam and the position of Imam alayhi salam became so respected. Despite, might say, his young boy, 7-year-old boy, 8-year-old boy. But they started to give him that maqam that he would sit in the court and the holy Imam would teach the grand muftis of that time. So the condition of imama is not bulugh. It is mansoos min Allah, chosen by God, number one. Number two, isma, infallibility. As in, an imam cannot be an imam unless he is a ma'soom. Isma is an absolute necessity, condition, shart min al-shurut al-imama. One of the signs or one of the conditions of imam is I must be ma'soom, otherwise not a ma'soom. Otherwise not an imam. Chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 3, ilm, knowledge. He must have ilm. In knowledge, he must be great. In fact, the ulama say the imam must be greater than the people in every kamal and fadila. In every merit, virtue, greatness you can think of, the imam has to be higher. And the hadith says there is no defect in the imam, be it physical or spiritual or apparent or hidden. Nothing, there's no defect in the spirituality, in the soul. In fact, the ulama goes for Allama Hill in his kitab Bab Hadi Ashar, he says, the imam is someone who does not even have a physical defect. You know, that may put the people off him. You know, a certain illness or something on the face that may people, you know, they put people off. In fact, the hadith even says, you know, you hear that in the Battle of Uhud, the Prophet, they threw a stone at the Prophet and he lost his front teeth. We have hadiths negating that from the Imams. They said no, because a lost teeth, you know, it's a defect. No one likes that. They said Rasulullah did not have that defect. Yes, he bled from the mouth. He didn't have a gap in his mouth. Again, even that is a defect. It's not his fault. It can happen. But Allah protects His messenger even from that. He says, no, he bled from his mouth. So, bulugh is not a condition. Ilm is. Allah can give that ilm to Isa alayhi salam in the cradle. Allah can give it. And the hadith is clear. You know, the imams, when they grow, it's not that they grow like our children. Some of the hadiths say within one day, the imam develops and grows like a month for a normal child. At that young age, the Imam ﷺ can show i'jaz and miracles. Or the hadith of al-Kafi, Usul Kafi. And As-Sadiq alayhi salam from the sixth holy Imam who says, إِنَّ الْإِمَامَ إِذَا شَاءَ أَن يَعْلَمْ عُلِّمَ. If the Imam wants to know anything, and by knowing anything, we don't mean like small things of this dunya. Secrets of the heavens. Ulima. The Imam knows them. It's given to the Imam. He wants to know anything. It's there for him. It's presented to him. Now you know why Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Saluni qabla an tafqaduni. Ask me before you lose me. Inni a'rafu turuq as-sama. I know the secrets of the heavens. And then he says what? He points to his chest and he says, Hada lu'ab Rasulillah. This is the saliva of the Prophet here. When Amir al-Mu'mineen was born, the Messenger of Allah, he placed his tongues on the lips of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And years later in Kufa, when Ali ibn Abi Talib becomes the apparent Zahiri Khalifa, he sits on the mimbar and he refers back to that day. Hada lu'abu Rasulillah. This is what? This is that. What the messenger. In other words, what the messenger did, he transferred what was in here into Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ask me anything. No one has made that claim except Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. And those who have tried to make that claim have failed horribly. I'll give you one or two examples, inshallah, I won't keep it too long. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, when Imam Rida alayhi salam passes away, he's brought to Baghdad. Young. But before he leaves for Baghdad, it is said that holy Imam at the young age of 7 gives a khutbah. 7 or 8 gives a khutbah. Imagine that. In Medina, mosque of the Prophet, mimbar of Rasulullah. Now, you've heard Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib being on the mimbar. This is Imam Jawad on the mimbar. He enters the mosque of the Prophet, Masjidun Nabawi. He walks past the people. Imam Rida alayhi salam has left this dunya, he's been martyred. He walks past the people and he climbs and he sits on the mimbar. Just imagine someone who's 7 or 8 year old comes and sits here. What's the first thing people would do? Take him down. No, this is not a place for play or children. But no one dare say that to Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. Why? Because they knew he's not a child. You know when Imam Muhammed Taqi al-Jawad passes away, Imam Naqi alayhi salam was put under house arrest by the Caliph. And because he was so young, what do? He sent one of the teachers of Iraq, go and teach, he's a child, go and teach him tafsir of Quran. Because it was under the government, they had the Imam locked up. His father had been martyred in Kazamain. And after some time, and so this teacher was brought in, he was put on a salary. He said, look, keep the doors closed. No Shias can meet Imam Ali Naqi al-Hadi. And you must teach him. In other words, teach him our ways. And after some time he called him, he says to him, look, ماذا تقول في هذا الطفل? What do you say about this child? He looked at him and said, لا تقل طفل بل شيخ الهاشميين. He said, don't call him a child. That's what I thought he was. until you put me in there to teach him. The reality is you think that I'm teaching him. The reality is that I'm being taught by him. Where do you find that? Any other imam, not our imams, their imams. Any other imam, do you find anything like this, of this sort, in their childhood? That they taught grand muftis. Okay, forget grand mufti, the local mufti. No. Yet Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam faces who? Yahya ibn Aktham. Yahya is a huge name. For those of you who are interested in history, Yahya is a huge name. I mean, I don't know who to compare him to in today's muftis. Probably there's someone, no one matches his caliber. He was a celebrated, highly ranking mufti of the court of Mamun, of Bani Abbas. And his name, Yahya ibn Aktham, comes up so much in the books of history and ahadith. Yahya is brought into the court, and Mamun invites Imam al-Jawad. And there's an interesting discussion that takes place, which has been narrated in the books. And I'll narrate this inshallah, and then I'll call it a night. But just pay attention to this. The muftis gather, and Mamun asks them a question. He says, look, in Islam you have the rule of cutting the hand for the thief. فَقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَّهُمَا, as the Quran says. Cut their hands. Male or female, man or woman. أَيْدِيَّهُمَا, both of them. So we've caught a thief. What is the fatwa of cutting the hand? Turns out there's a dispute. Some of them say from here, from the wrist. Some say no, from the elbow. The Quran says hand, but what is hand? What is the definition of hand? Wrist or elbow? When they can't reach a conclusion, Mamun turns to Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. He says, what is your point of view? And are they correct? The Imam says they're all wrong. Imagine for them, look through their lens, a young boy just says you're all wrong. I'll tell you what the real ruling is. He says, what is the ruling? He says, the ruling of us al-Muhammed, the Imams of al-Muhammed, is that the 4 fingers are to be cut. Now what do? The first thing when you hear someone who gives an answer that you don't agree with, you say dalil. What's your evidence? Don't we all say that? Right? Good. What's your dalil? What's your evidence? The Imam says, look, the hand is part of the 7 masajid. When you do sajda, forehead, 2 hands, 2 kneecaps, and feet for the sajda. These are amongst the masajid, wajib, for salah. He says if you cut his hand off, he won't have that for salah. Whether from the wrist or from the elbow. They say one of the mufti gets up and he walks out. And when he walks out, he meets his friend outside. This other friend narrates this. He says, I never saw him sweating and red with anger and embarrassed. And I stopped him. I said, what happened? And he says, never had I wished death upon me until today. He says, why? What happened? He said, I can't tell you the embarrassment that someone like me, white beard, big imama, got told what is right from wrong by an 8-year-old boy. Now Yahya comes forward. Now this is interesting, because this shows you the Imam's challenge against fake rawayat, fabricated, maj'ul, ja'li traditions that exist within the books of, there are many traditions in the books which are fabricated from all topics. And he brings some forward. For him, they're true, they're correct. But he wants to get the opinion of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. Now, if you want to get someone's opinion on something, that person is important to you. Or you give him some maqam. You know, if there's a person, you don't give him any ranking. You would never ask him, what's your opinion on this? Who do you ask for opinion? Someone you give a rank to. You consider him a person of caliber, a person of knowledge, a person of research. Now the Grand Mufti of the state, Yahya ibn Aktham, against the son of Zahra. What do you ask him? You guys are tired, or shall I continue? Shall I finish this? I'm not sure if the silence means concentration or concentration. Excellent. Recite salawat then. I won't keep you too long. Just this is the last. Yahya and Imam al-Jawad. He says to him, O Muhammed ibn Ali, certain traditions have come to us. I want to get your opinion on them. Imam says, what is the tradition that has come to you? Now I want you to bear with me on this. And I'm going to try to say them without saying any names. And by me saying that, you already know the names. Yahya says, Yabna Rasulillah. He says, what is your opinion on the tradition that Allah sent down Jibreel to the Prophet one day, and he said to him, O Prophet, Allah sends his salam to you and to him. And Allah wants you to tell him, the one who was in the cave with the Prophet, Allah wants you to tell him that Allah is radhi with him. And Allah wants you to ask him, is he radhi with Allah? I'm surprised this was even a question. You know what the Imam says? The first thing the Holy Imam replies to him, he says, look, I'll tell you one hadith in which there is no doubt. By saying that, he says there's a doubt in this. The hadith is from the Prophet, our Jad Rasulullah, who says, if anyone attributes a lie to me, he's reserved himself a seat in the hellfire. What does that say? Number one. Number two, he says, look, the Prophet says any hadith which contradicts the Quran, hits the Quran and it bounces back. فَضْرِبُوهُ عَلَى الْجِدَارِ. Throw the hadith on the wall. Diwar pe de maro. Throw it on the wall. He doesn't accept that hadith. Any hadith which contradicts the Quran. Now he's listening. What does the Imam say? He says, how can I accept that hadith when Allah says, وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ, that Allah created the insan and is closer to the insan than the jugular vein? You mean to tell me that Allah who creates and is closer to insan than insan himself doesn't know what's in the heart of man? That Allah who's radhi with him doesn't know if he's radhi with Allah? Is anything kept a secret from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You can answer this, it's okay. No, nothing is kept a secret. Alimul ghaib, in its true sense. So by saying this, the Imam puts a cross on it. Discards that. He says, fine. We've got another hadith then. He says, what about the hadith that has come to us that says that the Prophet says, those two, Shaykhain, in dunya are like Jibreel and Mikael in the heavens. Shaykhain in dunya are like Jibreel and Mikael in the heavens, in the asman. The Holy Imam says, look, to compare someone to Jibreel and Mikael, one must find someone who has remained infallible from the beginning to the end. Because the two angels are pure and purified. They're infallible, they only worship, they've never committed a sin. Yet the personalities you have brought forward worshipped sticks and stones for 30 odd years. to compare, to do this, this tashbih, this similarity with Jibreel and Mikail. Jibreel is the Ameen of the Wahyullah. Allah chose Jibreel to send revelation to His beloved Habib. To compare them to Mikail and Jibreel, first they must come to the level of Mikail and Jibreel. And no one comes to the level of Mikail and Jibreel. So no. I said, okay, fine. The third one, it is as if it wasn't enough. Any way to just prove something about them. He said, okay, fine. The hadith that has come to us also says that Hassan and Hussein are the leaders of the youth of paradise, whereas Shaykhain are the leaders of the elderly of paradise. The Imam says, he says, this is very easy. In Jannah, everyone's going to be young. There's not going to be anyone elderly. The elderly won't mind because, inshallah, you'll be made young. I remember I recited this somewhere and I had to clarify. Because everyone will be given youth, shabab. So how is that possible? So these traditions, the Imam says, look, there will be no elderly in heaven. What the Holy Prophet means that the leaders of the youth of paradise is that Hassan and Hussein are the leaders of paradise. Not that there is a condition, a qaid, or is this sentence not muqayyad? It's not restricted to the youth. Heaven and in heaven, everyone, their leaders are Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. And I end with this final point right here. For those who criticized that how can Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam be an Imam of the Shia when he's so young? Well, this hadith is narrated by both Sunni and Shia. Inna al-Hasan wal Hussein imaman qama aw qa'da. Hassan and Hussein are Imams whether they sit or stand. This was said at a time where the Imams were very young. When the Prophet left this dunya, they were perhaps 6 and 7 years of age. And the Prophet said this before, so they were even younger. And it's not that they will be Imams. No, they are Imams. Again, reading is not enough. One must read between the lines to get to the core of the message, whether it be Hadith or Quran. And so Imam al-Jawad alayhi salatu wasalam, the Imam that we remember today, the Imam who we have been blessed with as the son of Imam Ali al-Rida. Imam Rida waited a long time for this son, the only son of the holy Imam, and someone who continued the genealogy, the offspring, the children of Imam al-Rida alayhi salatu wasalam, someone who was most dear and beloved to his father, that he says, in Islam, there is no one who's brought more khair and barakah to my Shia than the birth of this child. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah gives us tawfiq of the ziyarah of Imam al-Jawad in Kadhamain. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshaAllah, make this year 2024 a year of barakah, a year of rahmah, a year of peace, a year where we're able to once again visit our masters in Karbala, in Najaf, Kadhamain, Samarra, Qum, Mashhad, Medina, Mecca. We're able to go and give our salams, our visitations to our A'immah. May this be a year where we are invited to Karbala Arba'een of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam, amongst the Zawar, amongst the, may we become pilgrims of the father of Imam al-Jawad, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, Sultan Khurasan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if we pass, and if this is our last year of our life, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to see the Imams in the first night of the Qabr and benefit from their shafa'ah. May Allah accept whatever was said of this member. May Allah forgive any shortcomings. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you for coming out with the barakah of Imam al-Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam. May Allah accept your du'as and hajat. Anyone who's unwell, may Allah give him shifa ajila wa kamila. All of the marhumeen of the community who have left this dunya, who were here last year, 2023, but not this year, may Allah raise them in the jawar of Imam al-Jawad, Babul Murad, salamullahi alayhi, with the loudest of your salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. काश मैं मेहदी दोरा का ज़माना देखूं, बार वह दर करार का चेहरा देखूं, काश मैं मेहदी दोरा। फिर अज़ाने अली अकबर से हो आगाज़ सहर, फिर अज़ाने अली अकबर से हो आगाज़ सहर, पीछे मेहदी के मैं ईसा का मुसल्ला देखूं, काश मैं मेहदी दोरा का ज़माना देखूं, काश मैं मेहदी दोरा। परचम हज़रत अब्बास को लहराते हुए, परचम हज़रत अब्बास को लहराते हुए, मेरे मालिक मेरे खालिक सर काबा देखूं, काश मैं मेहदी दोरा। परचम हज़रत अब्बास को लहराते हुए, परचम हज़रत अब्बास को लहराते हुए, मेरे मालिक मेरे खालिक सर काबा देखूं, काश मैं मेहदी दोरा। सहने काबा से निकलता है जुलूसे आशूर, सहने काबा से निकलता है जुलूसे आशूर, सहने काबा से निकलता है जुलूसे आशूर, अपने इस ख्वाब को ताबीर में दलता देखूं, काश मैं मेहदी दोरा का ज़माना देखूं, काश मैं मेहदी दोरा। सामने मौला के जाकर कहूँ दिल की हाजत, सामने मौला के जाकर कहूँ दिल की हाजत, कब तलक दरिया में बहता ये अरीज़ा देखूं, काश मैं मेहदी दोरा का ज़माना देखूं, काश मैं मेहदी दोरा। फिर अज़ाने علی اکبر سے ہو آغاز سحر پھر اذان علی اکبر سے ہو آغاز سحر پیچھے مہدی کے میں عیسیٰ کا مصلی دیکھوں کاش میں مہدی دورہ کا زمانہ دیکھوں بار حیدر کرار کا چہرہ دیکھوں کاش میں مہدی دورہ صلوات توجه زيارة السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا نبي الله يا حبيب الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين وسيد الوصيين السلام عليك يا فاطمة سيدة النساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى 9 المأسومين من ذرية الحسين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان سيدي الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن يا كعبة الإيمان يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله تعالى مخرجه وظهوره السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن لولي صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه وليا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة نسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد